All right, y'all. So I know we had short intermission for our prayer. All right, y'all. We're heading back now. All right, please come back. All right, let her talk first. So you'll have to do a divine attention. So I just realized because the subject at hand, I wanted to try to be as brief as possible. So I left a couple of things out that I want to make sure is answered. Excuse me, please. Thank you. I left a couple of things out that I want to make sure is clear. In our religion, God sent messengers and prophets to all people. But all the people that we know were black or brown. They were prophets. He sent over 125,000 prophets. So there were people that were in Asia, that were in Europe, that were in anywhere, other places, but the ones that we know, the 25 that are named, were black or brown. And I also wanted to mention this. I changed my attire a couple of different times. I wore this on purpose because I know people say that you dress like Arab. Arabs were black, so I'm dressing like a black man. All right, and this brother right here, how old are you? 10 years old. He's about to do this Quranic recitation here. I'm very, very proud of him. And he's a little bit nervous right now, but I'm about to be ready.
Look at that smile.
Right. Come on, Dustin.
You got this. You won a competition. Fine.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألهاكم التكاثر حتى زرتم المقابر كلا سوف تعلمون ثم كلا سوف تعلمون كلا لو تعلمون علم اليقين لترون الجحيم ثم لترونها عين اليقين ثم لتسألن يومئذ عن النعيم.
Alhamdulillah. You got some more? What you got for us, brother? Cheesing right there. Said I did it. You got more? Okay.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم كلا إن الإنسان ليطغى أن رآه استغنى إن إلى ربك الرجعى أرأيت الذي ينهى عبدا إذا صلى أرأيت إن كان على الهدى أو أمر بالتقوى أرأيت إن كذب وتولى ألم يعلم بأن الله خيرا كلا لئن لم يكن لنسمعا بالناصية ناصية كاذبة خاطئة فليعد نادية سندع الزبانية كلا لتطعه واسجد وقدره.
أعوذ بالله. الحمد لله. صدق الله. صدق الله الدين.
Still nervous.
Alhamdulillah. Good job.
Bismillah.
I'm reading a poetry that Robin wrote, my husband. It is entitled, What is History? What is history, if not a people's story? You tell of me, I tell of you. It's all true. When you tell of me, you tell of mystery. You tell of beauty. You tell tales of wonder when you speak of my culture. What is history, if not a people's story? When you tell your story, do you tell of mystery or things of beauty? Do you speak of wonder when you tell of your culture? Is it recorded that you treated all men as your brother? What is history, if not a people's story? When I tell your story, should I lie about history? About the things you have done to humanity? Should I conclude that you are a travesty? Or just naturally nasty? What is history, if not a people's story? I came from a great civilization that gave you God and religion. I gave you science and education beyond your imagination. You return the favor with cultural appropriation. What is history, if not a people's story? So, tell me of your history, the one of beauty and mystery, the one in which you treated everyone equally, the one in which you are not trying to get rid of me. What is history, if not a people's story? When I tell my story, should I hide my identity, or should I continue to tell my children your story? What is history, if not a people's story?
I actually like that rhyme. It's actually very rhymey. Is rhyming even a word?
Assalamu alaikum. Until the ignoble and unhappy regimes that hold our brothers and sisters all over the world, until the color of man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes, until bigotry and prejudice and human self-interest is replaced with understanding, tolerance, and goodwill. Does anyone know who said that?
Kwame Ture.
Who?
Kwame Ture.
Who?
Kwame.
Kwame Ture? No, that was Haile Selassie in 1936. It was the League of Nations. When he went to speak about ask for help for the Italian invasion. Well, until we get peace and understanding and goodwill and everything, I will see you on the battlefield. So that's goes without saying. We don't have no way of getting peace and equality unless we fight for it. You see what I'm saying? So I will give you a quote from a very renowned African American scholar. The boundaries of ancient Ethiopia, ancient kingdom of Ethiopia and of Kush. Let me change my glasses. This one's not working. Let's see. More we can. The boundaries of ancient Ethiopian kingdom of Kush stretch as far as India. It is known as the Indus Valley Kush. Its people are well defined and documented as Africans. There are two well-defined black races. One has black skin and woolly hair. The other has black skin, oftentimes exceptionally black, with straight hair, aquiline nose and thin lips and acute high cheekbones. We find a prototype of this race in India. I'm sure you all must have read that somewhere or know something about that, you know. And if you don't, well, you know now. So, they were called the Dravidians. It is also believed that certain Nubians likewise belong to the same Negro type. Thus, it is inexact and anti-scientific to do anthropological research, encounter the Dravidian type, and then conclude that the Negro is absent. You know who said that? Oh, yeah, you are. I thought nobody would know. And this one here, now another quote.
In Greater India, more than 1,000 years before the foundations of Greece and Rome, proud industrious black men and women known as the Dravidians erected a powerful civilization. We are referring to the Indus Valley civilization, India's earliest high culture. This phase of history is called the Bronze Age Harappa, spanning from 3300 to 1500 BC, with major cities spread along the Indus Valley River, Indus River. Indus River Valley civilization at its height around 2200 BC, 1700 BCE. It is safe to say that when we speak of the Dravidians, we are speaking of the living descendants of the Harappan people who were pushed into South India as a result of the Aryan invasion. This ethnic group is characterized by straight woolly to wavy hair textures combined with Africanoid features. This is quoted by Renaud Koroshidi. Godfrey Higgins tells us that the story of Herodotus, when he accounted for his travels in the land of the black peoples, and I quote, and upon his return to Greece, they gathered around and asked, "Tell us this great land of the blacks, called Ethiopia." And he said, "There are two great Ethiopian nations, one in Sind and the other in Kemet." That's present-day Egypt. Who knows where Sind is? India. Yes, it is in India, but exactly where? Who said India? Oh, okay.
I know it's answered all your questions.
What do you
I
say?
love this son. I love this son. I love this topic.
You love what?
So I love what you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
I'm teaching my son this now at home.
Yeah, this Sind is in Pakistan.
The president was saying something.
Huh?
I was saying, I thought it was Mumbai, but he just confirmed it's not.
Mumbai? Is that what he said?
That's what I was saying, but.
Oh, Mumbai is a city. This was usually was for Bombay. Then they changed it to Mumbai. So Sind is a city that was built by the Dravidians hundreds of years ago. That's where the Aryans came. And then, you know where the Aryans are from. It is said that the Aryans are from like Iran and places like, but it was really Greece they were from. That's why when you see Hindus, you see they display a swastika. And the Germans use the swastika as well. So the Germans are really Aryans. You understand? So the Turks and all of these people are Aryan. I said that to a brother recently. He was saying I was being subjective, that the information I have was subjective. I said, so who are the Moors? When you tell me the information I'm giving you is subjective, who are the Moors? The Moors are black people who conquered Spain. Right? So he totally eliminated the contribution the Moors made to Europe in one sweep. Like, I don't know nothing about that. That is wrong information. But we were always Muslim. You couldn't have always been Muslim. I mean, seriously. I'm not that stupid. I may look a little stupid sometimes, but I'm not that stupid. So African civilizations that covered African continent and South Asia has always been written and spoken about and recognized by travelers and historians as part of the African Ethiopian Empire. The Europeans have used the term Abyssinians or Negro in describing the people found in India, for they resemble the Africans in culture. So now I'm trying to bridge a gap by several thousand years here. I can't give you the time does not allow me to give you that information because it's just a vast amount of information. So I'll move right to the West Indies where I'm from. So you want to read that thing there for me?
Oh.
Yeah. You can come up here.
I have a piece of his poetry here. It's called Kalapani. It means dark water. And dark water is basically the Atlantic Ocean. I am the great-grandson of a black Dravidian woman who crossed the Kalapani from Calcutta without a husband. She and her small son running from starvation and poverty. She was called a Gladstone coolie. She never knew she had a son like me. I am the great-grandson of an indentured worker who crossed the Kalapani from Calcutta, looking for a better life in Trini, a woman tricked by white supremacy. Lonely, she died at sea. She never knew she had a son like me. She was thrown into the sea, never to know what it means to be free. She never knew she had a son like me. I am the grandson of a man who lived in poverty, coming on land with a strange family, a little child in a white supremacist game, never even knew his name, married at an early stage, died at an early stage. I am the grandson of a man who died in poverty. He never knew he had a son like me. I am the grandson of a man who marched in 1937 in the labor riots. He marched for better pay and equality. I am the grandson of a revolutionary. I am the son of a man who lives in poverty, a man who lives his life quietly. He knows he has a son like me, a man who has worked all his life, he and his wife, to raise his family, a father of many sons and daughters who holds his head high. He knows he has a son like me. I am a son who marched and fought in 1970 in the great uprising in Trini to usher in change and cultural identity. Lives were lost in the fight for freedom and equality. I was born a revolutionary. And that black Dravidian woman who died at sea, that Gladstone coolie, she gave birth to the son that is me. And this poetry was dedicated to his father, who at the time had recently joined the ancestors at age 82.
Let me see if I can tell you all a little bit about myself really briefly. It's probably not exciting as you don't think it is. It works for me, so. I was born into a family of 10. I'm the oldest. I have a bunch of brothers. I can't remember some of them. I was born in a little mud house. This brings back some emotional memories, you know. Anyway, I was born in a little mud hut on a little hill. The house, the roof was made of leaves. My grandmother lived there. My grandfather, I don't know my grandfather, he had already died before my parents got married. But my ancestors come from a place called Kerala in India. And they also came from Bengal, which is now Bangladesh. And they came from Sindh in Pakistan. Just give me a minute.
You want me to read some more?
No, I'm going to continue. So, and all this was due to some guy named John Gladstone, who was, in my eyes, a criminal, and a slaver, and he's a liar and a cheat. And he is responsible for my calamity, which is, I'll get to that in a minute. You know what my calamities are. So who was John Gladstone? And I will read something I took off on him here. The origin and far-reaching influence of 400 indentured Indian agricultural laborers who were introduced into British Guyana in 1838. John Gladstone, the father of the perennial Prime Minister of England, who was the originator of the enterprise. He was one of the few subjects of Queen Victoria with the influence, wealth, and nerve to begin a new questionable labor system. So soon after the emancipation of African slaves in the British Empire. Does anybody here have any idea who John Gladstone was? Or ever heard the name anywhere?
He was an English colonizer, wasn't
Yes, he was an English colonizer. He was responsible for the Emancipation Proclamation in America. He was one of the authors of it. John Gladstone, remember that name. Because that is the man who is responsible for your enslavement, or partially responsible for your enslavement. How we forget these things easily, because John Gladstone was nowhere around when American slavery started. He wasn't even born yet. But why is he responsible for your entrapment and enslavement? So he had to be responsible because he was one of the originators of that concept of slavery. You see, because slavery didn't start about race and skin color. It had nothing to do with race and skin color. It had to do with labor. It had to do with making money. It had to serve people's interests. It had nothing to do with you being black or you being brown or white or whatever. It had to do with how much money they could have made off of free labor. That's what it was started as, because. So John Gladstone was the one responsible for bringing East Indians, as what they call in the Dravidians now, and the Dalits, who are the untouchables. If you want to know more about them, you can Google it and you'll find out who the untouchables were. That would save me it's not a problem, but having to go into it in detail, you see. So Gladstone was the author of that whole, because he had plantations in British Guyana, and slavery was ending. The conversation about ending African slavery was already on the table in England from 1838 around there. So he decided, well, since he has the money, he had the heir of the Queen Victoria. And since he had the heir of the Queen, he was in a position to say, well, we have these people in this other land here, the Indians, we can bring, they're just like the Africans, we can bring them over to cut the sugar cane, because that was the business, sugar cane, coffee, cocoa, you know. So, but there's a whole lot more history to that than just coffee and cocoa and money. There's a whole, it was all money, it was all just money, 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 we're just making money. Because of them, the government of the British Empire entered what they call the coolie trade and made it one of its strong crops. The system began when approximately 400 Indians disembarked in South America during May of 1838 to work as contract laborers on the sugar plantations of John Gladstone and his associates. Gladstone's political influence stretched from British Guyana to the Parliament of England, and then to India. Earlier, as the years passed, he purchased slave plantations, and he defended the practice of enslavement from the floor of the House and the Commons, and in the newspapers. However, when Gladstone saw the inevitability of emancipation, he assisted in the drafting of the Emancipation Act, which generously compensated the slaveholders. Gladstone used a share of the slave compensation money to finance and recruit the recruiting and contracting and transportation of Indians. Now imagine that. You as a man defended the enslavement of people. You work to free the same people you enslaved. You now get compensated for being a slave master. And the slaves didn't get nothing. But as a matter of fact, they didn't really bring no slaves from Africa. There was no slaves in Africa. There was people living there with a culture and whatever else they had, they were living there. So the Europeans went over there, ransacked the place, and the thing is, they did it so casually. They would go to one group and say blah 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 blah. They go to the other group, say blah blah blah, and then both groups start fighting. They don't know what they're fighting for. You understand? They have no idea what they're fighting for. Like today, this day and age, we walking around here with our cell phones, and we're talking about boycotting this and boycotting that and boycotting it. And boycott the cell phone. Because what they're making that cell phone, what they're doing in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, it's unfair. We shouldn't be even using cell phones. I mean, I have one myself, but you know, that's the way we are. They take away one and give us another, but we indulging in it the same way. We're still indulging in it regardless. No matter what we talk about and how we talk about it and why we talk about it, we're still indulging in what they do. You see, we still indulge, and we have to indulge. Why? Well, we can just boycott and say no more cell phone and go back to beating the drum, you know? And going to your neighbor and driving down the road to just to see if somebody's at home. That's what we used to do in Ireland. We didn't have no phone. You know, I didn't have cell phones since I've been in America. I don't have a cell phone. We didn't even have a refrigerator until I was 19 years old. We didn't have a TV until I was around 20 years or so. People don't have that. Now they have them luxury. People have 3-4 cell phones. You think you're in New York or something. But, oh, I do. I'm not sure where I am. Oh, okay. Anyway, Gladstone was among the first to exploit the new source of the West Indies, bringing Indians from Bengal and contributing to the racial complexity of the British Caribbean. He was influenced in the outcome of Indian indentureship. Gladstone traveled from New York to guess where? This town, Norfolk, Virginia. And then back to Salem, Massachusetts. That was one of the first British merchants to trade in both East and West Indian sugar and wood, opening India's trade to all of England. I'm going to skip a part here. There was a man called James Cropper. He had an interest in abolishing slavery in the Caribbean. He founded the first society for the emancipation of enslaved people in 1822. John Gladstone accused Cropper of hypocrisy because Cropper's American trade depended on the products of slavery in the U.S. And furthermore, the economy of British colonies would become depressed and never take part to free their slaves. Now we go on to the British East India Company. Who knows what the British East India Company is? Anybody ever heard about it?
Yeah. Heard about it.
Huh?
Heard about it.
You heard
I don't know a
about
whole lot about it, heard about it.
it? At its peak, it was the largest corporation in the world. British East India Company. They had the largest. They were the largest, bigger than Microsoft, bigger than any one of them. You see, it had its own armed forces in the form of the company's 3 presidential armies, totaling about 260,000 soldiers, twice the size of the British army at the time. The company rose to account for half of the world's trade during the mid-1700s and early 1800s. The company also initiated the beginnings of the British Empire in India. So when we talk about African slavery, let me say this real quick. When we talk about African slavery, we have to include Indian indentureship, because the Emancipation Proclamation was read in 1868, and they started bringing Indians to the Caribbean in 1838. So that leaves a bunch of years. They used the same route that they had used to transport the Africans over to the West Indies. You see? So we go to India for a little bit. In 1864, the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan extended his hospitality to the English traders of the region of Bengal. Who knows who that is? Anybody know who Shah Jahan is?
I missed the name.
Shah Jahan. You know about the Taj Mahal, right?
Mm.
He was the man who built the Taj Mahal for his wife as a tool. The Taj Mahal is not a tourist attraction, it's a tool for his wife. An act aimed at strengthening the power of the EIC, King Charles II granted the EIC acquisitions to mint money, to command fortresses and troops, and form alliances to make war and peace, and to exercise both civil and criminal jurisdiction over the acquired areas. In 1868, a Mughal fleet commanded by, anybody know about the Mughals? Who the Mughals were? Not the Mongols. Mughals. The Mughals were Muslims who converted to Muslim. They were from Asia. They were like Genghis Khan and those guys. So they were from Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, all of them places. It was called Eastern Europe now. They were called the Mughals at the time. A Mughal fleet commanded by Sidi Yaqub attacked Bombay. After 1 year of resistance, the EIC surrendered in 1690, and the company sent envoys to Aurangzeb, who was the king at the time. He was a Mughal emperor. To plead for the Poipaj, the company's envoys prostrated before the king. In September of 1695, Captain Henry Every, an English pirate on board the Fancy, reached the Straits of Bab el Mandeb, where he teamed up with 5 other pirate captains to make an attack on the Indian fleet returning from the annual pilgrimage to Mecca. The plunder of Aurangzeb's ship had serious consequences for the British East India Company. The furious Mughal king Aurangzeb ordered Sidi Yaqub and Nawab Daud to attack and close 4 of the company's factories in India and imprison their officers and threatened to put an end to all English trading in India. So while all that was going on, the East India Company started to sell opium in China. Right? While all that was going on, they started to do, the opium trade. And it created a series of opioid addiction outbreaks across China in 1820. The ruling Qing dynasty outlawed the opium trade in 1796 to 1800, but the British merchants continued illegally nonetheless. So that's how these people operate. You can't give them no orders. We can't make them do anything they don't want to do. They will continue doing wrong things. It seems like they have that, and that's in their nature for some reason. I don't know what the problem is with them. Now, they were called the British Raj. Raj meaning ruler, That's how the Indians was called the ruler, Raj. The East India Company. They didn't leave India until it gained its independence in August 15, 1947, along with Pakistan. This is just a brief history of the East India Company. Enter the Trinidadian situation. You want to read that next piece of poetry?
Sure.
Yeah. One last piece of poetry I have with.
Poetry is meant to set the tone for the next subject matter. So this one's called In the Dead of Night. Y'all gonna hear my little wannabe Trinidad accent here. In the dead of the night, when the moonlight bright, and the cricket them chasing away the evening light. I sit down in my hammock, trying to rock, whispering with my brethren, my boots on, my face resting on cold iron. I could smell the powder as the cricket them get louder. So you want to fight? You say you're standing for your right. Reading with a pen light, staying up all night. It's all right. A quiet whistle filled the air. My turn come. Not a breeze blowing, not a leaf stirring, not even the cricket singing. I been down low, in a stealthy crouch. I moved to my position to wait for the situation, not knowing when it's going to happen. So you want to fight? You say you're standing for your right. I hear an explosion coming in my direction. I hit the ground, never making a sound. I crawl for cover as the lead fly over. Hitting the trees, you could smell the gunpowder. Voices shouting, "Don't move, don't move!" Police and soldier getting louder. In the dark of the night, like a mosquito, you have to fight. Mindful of the brethren, being careful not to hit him. So you want to fight? You say you're standing for your right. Getting quiet like a ghost, stealthily leaving my post. Staying in the shadow of the trees, going toward the enemies. He blink as a bat, he don't even know where you're at. He think I'm running, he never see me coming. I fire some shot, the barrel get hot. Still moving, still crawling, in the shadow like a ghost. I done far from a post. It's a dragnet, me is the target. Cause I like a ghost, a spirit in the night. Like a mosquito, I hit and run. When you slap your face, I hit you in the next place. So, you want to fight? You say you're standing for your right.
Well, that is a true story. That have no, I didn't copy that from nowhere, I was there. So let's enter that Trinidad situation. Dr. Eric Williams, the first Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, wrote in his book, Capitalism and Slavery. Now, this was a man who was educated at Oxford, and he was the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. The existence of slave plantation in the Caribbean was not coincidental. It was a deliberate move. They fought amongst themselves as to who should own these lands and its inhabitants. The white slave owners treated escaped Africans without mercy. Those that were caught were hanged and whipped. The lives of the indigenous people who lived on the land were either wiped out or assimilated and met the same treatment as the Africans. So, I'm going to end that there. The first shipment of Indians came in 1838. Most of them was in fact Dalit or Dravidian. Does anybody know anything about the Dalit or Dravidian? You heard about the Dravidians already. Do you know anything about who the Dalits are?
He got the same.
So the Dalits is at the bottom of the caste system. They're outside the caste system. They're outside of it. There's no description for them in the caste system. The caste system is only four parts, right? So the Dalits are the fifth part. The Dravidians are another part. There is no. These are the people who clean the toilets. And when I say clean toilet, I don't mean with a plunger. I mean get down in the septic bareback by putting oil on their skin and getting down in the cesspool and cleaning with their hands. That's what they do. They're the shoemakers. They work with leather and all that kind of thing. They do the nastiest jobs. They used to walk around with brooms, little brooms. Walk around with these little brooms whereby they would sweep behind them so that their shadows wouldn't hit the Hindus, They used to wear a little cup around their neck, saves to spit in it in case their spit happens to go on the upper caste. That's you talk about racial discrimination. This is done by the same race of people to their own people. So it goes beyond racial discrimination. It goes into the caste system now, which is what's going on in America. People don't see that at all. They're only talking about race, and don't really see the hierarchy of caste. There's a movie out I went to see the other night. It's called, what is it called?
It's called
Original.
Origin by Ava DuVernay.
You all should go see
It's
that
in the
when
theaters.
you all get some time. It's in the theaters now, I think. You should go see that. That would open my eyes to a lot of things. And I'm really kind of glad that this woman take the time to make that movie, you know what I'm saying? And or even take the time to write the book that made the movie. So anyway, let's get back to the first shipment of Indians came in 1838, many of whom were black, who were in fact Dalit or Dravidian. They were the descendants of the early Ethiopians who had settled in northern India or the Indus Valley. Many of them in India were called untouchables. That's how they would refer to them, that you're untouchable. You can't touch you. You can't, okay, you can't touch us. Anyway, so anyway, I'm gonna skip ring the boss tell me I gotta skip. I told I would take enough time. You want to run the slides?
Yeah, there it is.
And I'm going to explain to this is an organization called the National United Freedom Fighters, of which I was a part. Yeah. Oh, these are some of the brothers who we were in the hills together, and I wish I can see them so I can explain to them. So, 1970 was a year of a lot of turmoil in the island. You know, there was a lot of killing and a lot of shooting and marching and demonstrations. That same year, Kwame Ture come to Trinidad and he get put back on the plane and sent back. So he didn't get to make it. I was fortunate enough to meet him in the 90s in Amherst, Massachusetts. We had a nice long conversation, you know, because he had never met anyone who from Trinidad who would give him inside information about that whole scene, you know. So that made me feel a little bit. But anyway, this is members of the National Army that mutinied, that had a mutiny, and what is the number?
Oh, you wanted to move?
Yeah.
Okay. I had put it on pause.
I got a question.
Yes.
I don't think people are understanding what's happening here.
I know.
The brother Ravin was a revolutionary fighter. He was shot at, and he shot at other people and imprisoned for revolutionary. We all talk about revolutionaries. The reason I wanted him to be involved in this is because he actually fought a real revolution. The person standing in front of you is a real revolutionary. That's the truth. I can't say real more often. I tell you what I would do if I thought a revolution started. He can tell you what he did. He went to prison for freedom, for fighting for freedom for black and brown people. That's what I want to be explained. And the brother is explaining it, but he's very modest in doing it. He don't want to tell. He also can't list the people who did it because they may see it and they may still be retaliation or response back for the things he did because he's a real revolutionary. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I mean here.
I want to read something for you all here really quickly. Let me read a little. This was written by brother Clem Haynes. And, it's about this sister called Beverly.
How old was she?
Oh, she was 17 years old. She was 17 and pregnant. Yeah, please.
Sister Beverly Jones was a 17-year-old pregnant woman who was shot multiple times as she lay wounded under a blanket where she had been placed by her comrades while under fire from the army and police. Brother Kenneth Tinia was shot in the head and died instantly as he scrambled over a log to find cover. This is an eyewitness account of the incident as given by my good friend and comrade in arms, Brother Clem Haynes. Let me show you who is doing the speaking here real quick. This is who I'm reading the account from, and Beverly's sister. She's the, what is she? She something to Cuba?
Oh, she was the ambassador to Cuba.
Okay, so this is Beverly's sister.
That's after the dealings in here, you know?
And we used to publish a newsletter. This is Beverly right here. So he says, the fact is that during the early 1970 period, 1972 to 75, NUF, NUFF, was a political organization that was engaged in a revolutionary struggle against an unjust political and economic system that exploited the blood and sweat of the working people and upheld the oppression of the broad masses of people in that turbulent era. There was a lot of rain that day. I remember when the night came, we were all soaked in our clothes. A comrade offered Beverly his hammock, which she politely refused and said she was a guerrilla, and she did what the rest of us had done and laid down on the ground and curled up as small as possible to generate some kind of warmth. That was the caliber of woman she was. On the morning of September 13th, 1973, I was relieved of guard duty. It was just after 7 a.m. I was slightly asleep when I heard the chattering of gunfire. Jennifer had just left to go do guard duty. Realizing it was an ambush, I took cover behind a tree. We thought she was killed, and we decided to go up the hill. And when we got to the top, there were a lot of boot prints. Sensing another ambush, we decided to go across the mountaintop. While doing so, a voice at the top of the ridge shouted, "Drop your guns!" And then the gunfire started again. I saw Kenneth Tinia about to crawl over a log for better cover and was shot in the head and died instantly. A little while later, I saw Beverly, who was wounded, a bullet to the side of her face, which showed some of her teeth. When she could no longer resist, she was placed under a blanket to try to camouflage her. The soldiers came in shooting rapidly, so we had to move again. They opened fire on her as she was laying under the blanket. Farewell, sister, you will always be remembered.
I share.
So, that concludes my presentation. I would like to go into detail about it, but I can't right now because time is short and the boss is right.
All right.
Part two.
But yeah, we're definitely gonna need just a day around.
They'll hold this over again in the Italian one of these Sundays. And then, you know, we all can come back here. So we can have an in-depth conversation.
Certainly
As now,
That man was tortured,
that's it.
tortured as a political prisoner. I'm just trying to tell you all this. That's the person that you're in the midst of right now. He didn't tell you none of the stuff that he did and happened to him. It literally was torturing that man.
So, and continuing kind of in that theme, we're getting ready to bring General Mike Payne from the original Black Panther Party up. So real quick, I will do a little bit of my short story. So when I first started reading to learn for knowledge, one of the first people I came across was Huey P. Newton. And so he was the one that made me understand the internationalism of revolution, of connectedness, of this isn't just in one place, it isn't just your city, everybody is connected. So the three forefathers of my young political mind are Malcolm X, Huey Newton, and Fidel Castro. So you can get an understanding of the type of people that were in my head. And speaking of revolutionaries, so somewhere I might even read about Rabin and didn't even realize I was reading about him when I was reading about these brothers and the work they put in. So
I don't know about that.
I appreciate that the original Black Panthers continue the ideology and the thought process that those brothers laid down, Bobby, Huey, everybody laid down, because that was it was universal, it was socialism, it was connectedness, you know. I always remember hearing young Fred Hampton, you know, white power to white people, black power to black people, brown people, all power to the people. And of course, him always saying, I'm gonna live for the people because I'm gonna die for the people, and, you know. And then I'm starting to read, you know, revolutionary suicide and to die for the people speeches. And so my young mind was blown away, and I have not been the same person since. So in the continuation of that great tradition, I bring up General Mike Payne, who's general of all of the organizations I have introduced earlier that I'm part of. Assalamu alaikum. Set up real quick, everything together, but I won't make the time valuable. All power to the people. 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 All right. Gotta get that energy. I really wish I was here speaking just in, you know, openly with you all, but I have been honored to be tasked with in the history of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. So that's what I'm going to do today. All right. Now I got these cards. These cards are important. Okay. These cards are because I can spend an hour on, you know, Chairman Fred Hampton alone. I can spend an hour on the Hampton 21. I can spend an hour on just talking about our organization and what we're doing right now. And I don't want to get long-winded. So this is what these are for, to keep me on track. So I don't, you know, go too long or keep going right now. Just remember, right? Okay, so we good to go? So I'll just start with Chairman Fred Hampton said, "We don't fight racism with racism. We fight with solidarity." Bobby Seale also said, "We aren't against white people because of color. We are against oppression." Now, all that is going to be important a little bit later, but we're going to get into this, and we are set. Okay, all right. Dr. Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale started the Black Panther Party for self-defense in 1966, Oakland, California. 17-year-old little Bobby Hutton was one of the first members. Now, I want you guys to remember that also, because these are important parts to go along with the history. The logo, does anybody know why the logo was a panther in the first place? Anybody?
No, I can't say why. I know where it came from, but I can't say why.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
If I'm not mistaken, there was an organization, I believe, in Louisiana.
Yeah, there you go.
With a Black Panther. I'm with y'all, man.
All right. I like
I love Black Panther Party too, bro.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, that's kind of how that, if I'm not mistaken, migrated to Oakland.
Yes.
Please carry on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. See, that's what I like. That's what I like. So the reason why they chose the Black Panther was because they said that the Black Panther would first take a step back. It didn't attack people. It would take a step back. And once attacked, then it would attack. All right. So it had a good self-defense. You know, because that's one thing that's always misconstrued about the Black Panther Party for self-defense. You know, but we will get into that. So one thing we can start with is misconceptions. They always like to say that the Black Panther Party is a hate group. They like to say that we're terrorists. They like to say that we are likened unto the Ku Klux Klan. We are the black version of the Klan. Okay? That's what they say. A lot of people. But we all know we didn't attack anybody. We didn't hunt folks down. We weren't burning up churches or shooting children in churches, and we weren't hanging people. We weren't doing those things. So I don't know how they try to equate that, but I think it's a guilt thing. And I think they try to say that's why, you know, you guys got one too. No, that's not the case. So in the school system, what you heard about before, a lot of our history is watered down and not spoken about. They don't like to always speak about
the ones that physically fought back. They'll give you, George Washington Carver and even, Martin Luther King, great. Never take anything away from him. He just had a different way of doing things. But they will give you that because he had more of a passive approach. To an extent, I think what he did economically in crippling a lot of those companies was just amazing. So I'm not taking anything away from him, but it's just a different approach. And they take certain things and use that propaganda and peaceful protest and things like that to say that's what we'll teach the kids about so that they don't rise up. Okay? So I want to get that clear. We're typically not spoken about in the schools. We're not invited to speak in the schools for the most part. Programs. They had programs for housing that fought the housing, welfare, health, and also the famous free food program. Now the free food program fed 20,000 meals each week, okay? 20,000 meals each week. That's really big, all right? And Dr. Huey P. Newton studied law. He did what we still do today sometimes, which is cop patrol. Cop patrol is where they drove around and they watched the police to make sure that they were handling their business the right way. Make sure there was no police brutality and things like that. They legally armed themselves, kept a safe distance. They knew what distance to keep because, like I said, he studied the law. So they wanted to make sure that the police, it was always called police to police. They wanted to make sure that they were doing their business right, all right, which angered the United States government, okay? They didn't like to see strong black individuals waving guns around or holding guns or protecting themselves or doing anything like that. They wanted things to just be, be that good old boy and chill out, be quiet, and sit to the side. But that's not what we were trying to do. The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense wanted to stand up, just like many of our ancestors had did even in the past, before them. So the government didn't like that. They put a bill out together known as the Mulford Act. Okay, this was 1967. I did skip that, didn't I? Thank you very much. Yes, so with that, and then police brutality, they had a 10-point program. This is what they asked for and things that they wanted or demanded, I should say, not asked for. Number one, I'll go over this so you guys can kind of get an idea. I'm sure you've read it before, but I'll go over it briefly. Freedom, the power to determine the destiny of our black community. Full employment for our people was number two. Number three, end to the robbery by capitalism of our black community. Number four, decent housing, fit for shelter of a human being. Number five, education that exposes the true nature of decadent American society. We want education that teaches us our true history and our role in the present day society. Number six, we want black men exempt from the military service. Number seven, an immediate end to police brutality and murder of black people. Number eight, freedom for all black men held in federal, state, county, and city prisons and jails. Number nine, a jury of all peers as defined in the Constitution. Number 10, land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace. Now, where I picked up at, the government didn't like this, okay? They put a bill together known as the Mulford Act, and it was in 1967, and it was named after Don Mulford, a Republican assemblyman. He was backed by Governor at the time, Ronald Reagan. This may be the only time in history, and I want you guys to really think about this. This might be the only time in history where you see the NRA support gun control. They're always about gun control, right? Absolutely. The NRA is not fun when the rabbit got the gun, right? Right? Absolutely. So they were, they were in support of gun control. When they found out that black people were walking around the streets with guns and they were policing the police and doing these different things, they decided to say, no, we can't have that. No, we need to put some control on this. And that's very disheartening, but that's what it was. Now, I want with that the importance of being armed, okay? I know a lot of people feel like, maybe we shouldn't, have guns, maybe it's dangerous, this, that, and the third. A gun, a weapon is only as dangerous as the person that's holding it. The bad people have them. Why wouldn't you? You can't fight no bullet now. I consider myself pretty nice with it, all right? Can't punch no bullet. I'm telling you, it's just not gonna happen. You got people that are out here doing weird stuff, people that try to break into your homes, different things of that nature. You have to protect what you have. You have to protect your property, your family. If I had time, I have a small story, but I went to go get some wings one time, and there was a man in there just spraying ketchup all over the wall, doing a whole bunch of stuff. This was just not too long ago. I shouldn't go upstairs. That's right. That's right. Never mind. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you the other side. I'll tell you the other side.
We want to know what you did to the brother with the
Tell
us every story,
Okay.
You can't say it without on camera.
Oh, no, I can't. So, I went to get the chicken. And the man at the store, I'm kind of wondering why I can't, pay for my food and leave. He's scared to open the register. This guy's threatening. He's talking about ski mask. I'll kill you, a bunch of other words, he was using. And I was like, man, So the guy looks at me and says, can you get him out? I said, why don't you call the police? What are you asking me for? What are you talking about? So
Keep in mind, he's not in uniform.
Yeah, I'm just in there in a sweatsuit. So I'm like, why are you asking me to do that? They call the police. He says, they don't like, the police scare away customers. I said, he's scaring away the customers. Spraying ketchup on the wall and drinking all your juice, just standing there drinking, So I'm like, man, so I kind of make eye contact with him. And, he calls me all type of B-A-F. I mean, he pretty much uses every one of them just for me. I say, good God, all right. And I can tell that, he has some mental issues, some things was going on. But as always, I have my trusty friend with me. And I keep, I say, man, I gotta have him. And I said, okay, I can't just beat this man up. That was weird, He's low, I said, now maybe I can, I can lock him up and, just kind of hold him and get him out of here. My food's getting cold, and my fiance here, she don't like cold food. Now I'm thinking, I said, oh no, it's gonna be a problem. I can't have a problem, So I said, oh well, let me see what I can do. I looked at him. He called me a couple more names, and then I got close. I said, look, brother, you might just want to leave. Nobody can pay for their food or whatever. And he said, I'm a bit of a germaphobe, but I just am. And I couldn't imagine a loogie on my face. I just pulled the firearm out. And he said, ooh, you got a gun?
He had made the threat to blast the
Yeah, he said he was going to air the place out. I told him, hey, I said, air it out, Go ahead. I want to see you do that. You go right on ahead. But, so anyway, when he hawked up the loogie, I pulled the gun and I said, get out of the store. And I pushed him out the store. He ran off. He got it. He got it. But everybody was able to eat. Everybody was able to enjoy themselves. Things like that.
She got her hot wings.
She got her wings. They wasn't cold.
That's a great story, man.
Yeah, everything was good. All right.
And you were happy.
Exactly. I was happy. So we have to look. We do what's legal to better ourselves. Then the government makes a law that changes their law to make our actions illegal. So we have to realize that we must have the spirit of resistance. We must have the spirit of resistance within us, and it is incumbent that we do so. On May 2nd, 1967, the Panthers occupied the California state capitol. Before entering, Bobby Seale read written on he's read this on the Capitol steps, and he said, the American people in general and the black people in particular must take careful note of the racist California legislation aimed at keeping the black people disarmed and powerless. Okay? Disarmed and powerless. Now, we're looking around 1967, right? If you look and think about disarmed and powerless, right now, when you are convicted of a crime, right? The only way you're allowed to be, the only way slavery is illegal or is legal is if you're convicted of a crime.
13th Amendment.
Absolutely. Now they put you in prison, they give you a felony, and then when you get out, most likely, in most places, you can't vote, so you don't even have a voice. Now, you can get things expunged and sometimes, whatever, but for the most, you can't vote. You can't legally carry a firearm, and you can't be around people that carry firearms. And you can't even wear a vest. So even if you walk around without a gun, you can't even put a vest on so that somebody can shoot you and you can be okay. So you now cannot protect yourself, you cannot protect your family, you cannot protect your livelihood, anything around you. Okay? So in 1967, they were talking about this and it came to fruition. They found ways to do it by just adjusting the law. Every time we come up and see, they adjust the law. So this is an important thing to remember. Coming with weapons to the Capitol scared white America. And politicians played on white Americans' fear of African Americans taking over in the 60s. This bold act put the Panthers on center stage, okay? All of America was talking, the news, every tabloid, all forms of media, it was everywhere. They said that the Panthers had raided the Capitol. All right? And now you see this image of black men, strong black men, grimacing, holding rifles. Oh, man. So, with this, people were ready to join. Chapters was sprouting up everywhere. Everybody wanted to be a part of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. Behind the popularity comes consequences. And it grew so fast that the Panthers weren't really vetting people. Okay, it was just growing. Everybody wanted to join. So it was like they couldn't just sit there and really vet each person. We didn't have certain things, like we have now where you can go online and just, whatever. But they weren't vetting people, and people were just coming in. Okay? So that became quite a problem. Which leads us to my next topic, COINTELPRO. Does anybody know what COINTELPRO means besides that brother right there? Because I don't Yes, sir.
No, he was asking.
Counterintelligence program.
There we go. All right. And that was part of it. So the counterintelligence program was an FBI program led by J. Edgar Hoover. Now, I know you've probably seen him in a lot of movies, a lot of depicted at least, a lot of movies he pops up in. I see him all the time. And he saw black empowerment as a threat. The objective of COINTELPRO was to expose, disrupt, discredit, misdirect, or neutralize. I want to read those again. Expose, disrupt, discredit, misdirect, or neutralize. That was the plan of COINTELPRO. Now, neutralize was defined as stopping activity by using an informant, jailing an individual, or murdering them. Okay? So, and we see through history, this is exactly what happened. They wanted to stop the rise of what they called the Black Messiah. And I will do a shameless plug because it was a great film. If you haven't seen it, you ashamed of yourself? No, definitely see it. Judas and the Black Messiah is a great movie, great film. A great true story. All right. Definitely check it out. It really highlights a whole lot of the movement, especially Chairman Fred Hampton, so definitely check that out. The Black Messiah was defined as a charismatic leader that unifies the movement and appeals to the Black youth radical movement. All right? So what I want to do now is I want you guys to think about that. They were scared of somebody who would unify the Black youth movement, radical movement. Now, if you look right now, what's going on with our youth? Are they a part of what we just said earlier? Are they disrupted? Are they misdirected? Are they exposed?
True indeed.
Absolutely, absolutely. You say you don't know. So when you have things like, you know, all the social media, the TikToks, the Instagrams, you know, you sit there, click all day. I'm guilty of it too. You know, sometimes you sit there, you get stuck. Click, you just going video to video. All right? And this becomes a problem because now you're not getting the actual information. You're distracted. There's all type of stuff going on around you, but you're distracted because you're just steady clicking. You're looking at entertainment, people dancing, people doing this, people doing water challenges, people, whatever it is. How important is that in life? You ain't drinking no water. How important is water jug? You know? So, anyway, these things are just distractions. So, like someone said earlier, us as Black folks ain't gonna get in that book. We're not gonna be worried about this, that, and the third. We're gonna look at everything else as boring because everything else that's in front of our, at the palm of our hand is so exciting. It's so exciting. So we're not paying attention to that. We're doing everything else but reading what truth is. All right? Members under COINTELPRO were followed, harassed, families were harassed, phones were tapped. They created suspicion between spouses. A lot of people didn't know that. They created suspicion between spouses by sending letters to your wives and things like that. So what they would do is they send a little letter or something, you know, claiming from another woman, get you arguing in your household, you know, break apart the Black family. After that, you know, your foundation going to pillars fall. You know, everything's going to come down. And they wanted to stress them out. They wanted to get them stressed. They wanted to, like they said, disrupt. They want them to distrust each other. That's what they wanted. And that's what their plan was. And it was a slow, sick, methodic plan. But that's what COINTELPRO is. Members tried to protect their families so that they stopped going home. They just wouldn't even come back home because they didn't want their people harassed. They had what was called the Panther Pad. The Panther Pad was a 3-bedroom house possibly with maybe 10 or more Panthers just there, sleeping there. That's where they lived at. Because they didn't want to go home and have their relatives getting messed with or, you know, harassed by the police and whoever else would come up to the door. Okay. In 1967, and I could have probably spent a whole hour and a half just on this, but in 1967, Officer John Fry was shot. Huey P. Newton was charged with murder. He was handcuffed, beat while he was handcuffed to the gurney, and he was charged. They were talking about, you know, they wanted to have the death penalty, and they wanted everything. They said they finally got it. He spent 2 years in prison and stood trial 3 times. Okay, he stood trial 3 times. He ended up winning a dismissal of all charges that he killed that policeman. Now, this was in short, but going through 3 trials and everything that was going on is quite a long story. All right, but I'm going to move on for the sake of time. I'm trying to give you as much as I can about the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. Eldridge Cleaver was the Minister of Information. He was what they considered kind of a wild card. It was said that he would talk a bit more radical than a few of the other members in Dr. Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale. Sometimes he went against what Dr. Huey P. Newton said or Bobby Seale said. All right? he was kind of a bit of a celebrity before he even joined. He had a book out that appealed to a lot of people. All right. So, yeah, there you go. There we go. So this was a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing was it brought a lot of people's eyes to the party. It allowed a lot of people to really find interest in the party. People even that weren't just black, they were like, wow, this, because they knew of him. But because of his charisma and the way he was, it was like, well, if he's not the leader of the party, who's he gonna follow? So after Dr. King was assassinated, people lost hope. Now, the reason why I was telling you about Eldridge Cleaver, I'm not just jumping to Dr. King. I told you about Eldridge Cleaver. I gave you that background for a reason. All right. But after Dr. King was assassinated, people lost hope. They felt like, well, if you're gonna kill the peaceful one, what are we out here doing? Like, what hope do we really have? That's the hope. Dr. King was, who killed Dr. King? He was trying to do it in a peaceful type way. Why would you kill him? So Eldridge Cleaver felt the Panthers needed to send a message. They needed to send a message to answer for the assassination of Dr. King. So against Dr. Huey P. Newton's decisions, he took a group of Panthers, one being Little Bobby Hutton. Remember that name?
Yeah.
All right. One being Little Bobby Hutton, and they attacked a group of police. All right. So with that, the story goes that they got held up in a spot, and the police were out there. They're surrounded. Eldridge Cleaver told Little Bobby Hutton, hey, strip naked and come out. The reason why he said that is because that way they can never claim that you had a weapon. You take everything off and just come out. Because then they cannot say that you got a weapon, nothing's on you. Come out, hands up, butt naked, right? Little Bobby Hutton, remember, he joined at 17, young. So he didn't feel comfortable doing that. He kept an article of clothing on, right? When they do come out, he's gunned down. You see, so these are situations in that time period where you had to move very differently. All right. So with that, Eldridge Cleaver didn't turn himself in, but he fled to Algeria. All right? He fled to Algeria. He started an international sector. The North Vietnamese gave him and the Panthers their old embassy building. The Vietnamese and Chinese were considered like allies because of the Vietnam War and anti-American statements the Panthers had. Okay? So we've come kind of a long way from there, but that's a very interesting point. So the Panthers at this time, it just got too big. They got huge. Nixon gives J. Edgar Hoover power. And Hoover made the Black Panther Party for self-defense the #1 threat to the U.S. despite the war going on in Vietnam. All right? You got the whole Vietnam War going on, but he made the Black Panther Party for self-defense the #1 threat. Now, when we talk about propaganda, I mean, that's huge. That's big. We're not even worried about the war we're in. We're worried about
These cats.
Right. So now the gloves come off. So we also have the New York 21. They're accused of plotting to bomb buildings. One person was Afeni Shakur. She was one of them. She acted as her own lawyer, facing 350 years. They all were facing enormous amounts of time. And just think, she had no training as far as being a lawyer. It wasn't like she was had no type of nothing with that. Self-educated, of course, but she said she felt that the lawyer that she was appointed or that she had a real high-pitched, squeaky voice and would never be able to command attention in the room. So she said, "Nah, you gotta go. I'll do it myself." So everybody told her this is revolutionary suicide. Like, this is not the thing to do. You're facing too much time. Don't do it, don't do it. But she held so strong. And like somebody said earlier, our sisters have always been strong. Strong in the movement. So she held strong. And she defended herself. And she won. She played a major role in the other Panthers' acquittals. That was May 1971. A month later, the greatest rapper of all time is born.
Bitter?
All the time. I'm saying, who gonna say something?
I'm with you, brother. I ain't gonna say nothing. Just gonna keep going.
That's for a different,
That's a different conversation. Take another hour on that. One person in particular that I do want to point out with this, Jane Fonda. Everybody, some people know who Jane Fonda was.
Oh, yeah.
She was important because she held fundraisers at her home for legal fees, to raise money for these legal fees. See, this was happening all over the country, all right? She was under surveillance also. The Panthers were being gypped.
She was letting them have meetings at her house.
Yes.
No, I got a picture. Somebody showed me a picture of her holding the Black Panther baby at the house. Blew me away.
Hey, they was there. They was raising money, doing fundraisers, all type of stuff. So
Wow,
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So the Panthers were being jailed for anything they could put on. They couldn't keep up with legal fees, bails. They was getting thrown 350 years. This was happening nationwide, and it consumed the party's energy and the finances. People stopped joining in fear of unjust prosecution and being harassed, or even worse, being killed. Nobody wanted to join an organization that had so much heat on it. Now you had three major figures, but two in particular. You have Dr. Huey P. Newton, who now was more on a community, grassroots, and political education side. You had Fred Hampton, who, was down with the Dr. Huey P. Newton side of things. But he also had created what we know as the Rainbow Coalition, where he had the blacks, the whites, the Puerto Ricans, and the Mexicans, plus the gangs, right? So the whites were the White Panthers, okay? A lot of people don't know about that. They had the White Panthers. The Puerto Ricans were the New Era Young Lords.
Young Lords.
Young Lords, yes,
Yes, sir.
absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Then we had of course, the Mexican folks. We had the Brown Berets. All right. So he had put all them together, all those different groups of people. That was a problem. That was a serious problem because that's what they didn't want. There's too much going on. They didn't want that. All the street gangs was getting together. Everybody, no, it was too much. So that, of course, I don't want to ruin the movie, but I'm sure most of y'all know, but, they really came after him in a very strong way, Eldridge Cleaver, who claimed the Panthers were now weak, and while programs and good in the organization was for, he said the Panther organization was for overthrowing the government. Now he says this all the way out in Algeria. So he says, basically screw them programs, this, that, and third. The Panthers are made for overthrowing the government. He talking tough, but he's way over there now. So yeah. He denounced the party and called for bloodshed. The split between Cleaver and Newton was the beginning of the end. The FBI created guess you could say, a culture of paranoia, okay? They drove a wedge between the members and watched it implode. It was ultimately destroyed from the inside out. Members didn't know who to follow. Some felt betrayed. Most walked away. This was a success for J. Edgar Hoover. So, when we have all this going on, and that's one thing we talk about when we speak about unity and not letting people come between us, we've fixed a lot of problems from the past. We've learned from the past. And if you don't know your history, you won't be able to learn from the past. So right now I want to take you to the original Black Panther Party. Now, we call ourselves the original Black Panther Party because we go by the same ideology as Dr. Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale. There's all types of Panthers out there. But we go by the direct ideology that they created. We also are connected directly through lineage of leadership. And that's one thing we pride ourselves with, is being able to connect our leadership and that lineage. So, as said, with Michael McGee Sr., he was a member of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They had internal issues and had to shut down in around '69. They resubmitted that paperwork and was granted permission to resume in '73. They did amazing work, but dissolved around '82 like the rest of the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. In '89, Michael McGee Sr. started the Black Panther Militia. So he wasn't done. He wasn't done. Although, the Black Panthers, got pushed underground. A lot of people went to the military. People hid out. People did this, that, and third. He wasn't done. He said, no, we still got some work to do. So he came back and started the Black Panther Militia. Darrell Farmer was the bodyguard and general under McGee. Michael McGee retired his boots around '98, but in 2015, Darrell Farmer started the original Black Panthers. I submitted my application in July 2018, really was 17, but 2018, because that's when we really got started. It was late to start a chapter here in Virginia. July 18th, 2021, Darrell retired, announcing me as the second, announcing me who was the second at that time in command as the national leader. So we were able to get headquarters moved out here, and he of course came back to still do some extra work and different things that he's still doing. But right now we have headquarters here. We have chapters all over, and we're doing programs. Some of our programs, just to list a few of them, we have our Shopping with a Panther. That's a program that I'm really proud of. That's where we take a mother or a child that has lost a parent to violence. And we take them out and just really try to uplift their spirits and take them on a little shopping spree. And we also, while we're doing that, we mentor and talk to them and just let them have a good time. We do the same thing for Mother's Day. For Mother's Day, we take mothers that have lost a child to violence, and we show them that we appreciate them and what they've been through. Losing a child is horrible and it's very hard, but unfortunately things like that happen. So we want to make sure we show the community that that's something we do hurt from as well. We have, of course, our winter pack giveaway where we give away coats and turkeys to each family. We have our school giveaway where we give away brand new sneakers and backpacks, things like that. We also have a cadet program where we teach the children and some adults as well. The cadet program exactly is for manhood and woman training, to teach them the right way to be, those old school values that we've lost, stuff that Big Mama used to teach, as they call it. We don't have that as much anymore, and some of those values have been lost. So what we do now is we incorporate that. We teach them even gun safety if the parents are cool with that. We teach them combat, hand-to-hand combat. We like to do that so that they don't get bullied at school, and we teach them how to fight back. One story about one of our cadets, she was 5, right? She was 5 then, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she had an issue on a bus. Some little boy was messing with her. Kept touching, doing little stuff, right? And man, I guess she got tired of it. She took up. How long was she in at the time? A few months? Yeah. Well, all I heard was she said, 1, 2. I don't know if y'all know what 1, 2 means. Somebody grabbed their face and got to crying. She got kicked off the bus now. Yeah. All right. But she no longer was getting bullied. She no longer had an issue. And we let her know she's not in trouble with us. She's not in trouble. We gave her all the hugs in the world. Hey, clap. You know, cheer.
Her grandparents were very proud.
Absolutely. So we have a lot of programs. We went to Madison Trust Elementary. They were playing slave games with our children. They were doing some game where they had them chasing each other. One was master, one was slave. No, this was a school. A school. Yeah, we went and put that school on lockdown. On lockdown. I like that. We showed up and lockdown. Everybody showed up. Everybody showed up. Every type of police that was around in that county showed up. And, you know, that was what it was. They stopped that game, though. They had to have a little town hall meeting or whatever they had. Madison Trust Elementary.
Where is that now?
That is about, what, 3 hours out? 3 hours out?
Yes, 3 hours out, actually,
Yeah.
It's in Virginia though, right?
Yes, yeah, it's in Virginia. It's just, a little ways out. And, you know, that was one thing. Of course, the Monterio Gibson with the Elmer Geronimo Pratt Pistol and Rifle Gun Club. We went to Mississippi, and that's the brother, if you guys don't know, the FedEx driver who was shot at by the 2 white men. We went out there to make sure that everything was going okay with him, and just to help him out. Also, Ahmaud Arbery's mother, we went and did protection for her going in and out of the courtroom for the sentencing. So we move around quite a lot.
Carolyn Bryant.
Yep. Oh, yeah, Carolyn Bryant. So we also do a commemoration on Emmett Till every year. We do a commemoration to let everybody know about Emmett Till and tell his story. And we were also hunting her down because when they found the warrant in that basement in Mississippi, we were trying to demand that warrant get served. Carolyn Bryant was the last known living person that had something to do with the death or murder of Emmett Till. So we wanted her bad. We didn't get her. We did find her. we couldn't put our hands on her. Because the citizen arrest wouldn't work without the warrant being served. So we did that as well, and she passed before we could, keep acting on it. But there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of work. We always say, you don't have to do exactly.
She knew y'all was coming. Y'all scared to tell.
What happened? Thank you. Yeah. Hey, there we go. I find much comfort in that. So we don't say you have to do what we do or as we do. We put our lives on the line. We've had to walk into houses of domestic violence, and brothers standing there with a machete talking about what he's going to do, this, that, and the third, and we have to escort and get the woman out safely and things of that nature. So we don't ask everybody to do what we do, but in some capacity, serve your people. We always talk about self-preservation. That's one thing I speak about a lot, and it's killing our people. Self-preservation is killing us every single day because we put everything before the revolution. We put everything with ourselves before each other. We don't think like a village anymore, which is something we need to get back to. We're constantly busy with the job, busy with this, busy with that. There's a whole war going on. And we like to sit and think that everything's fine. Like I said, they keep everybody occupied up here, and they think everything's good. We get a little money in our pocket, drive a decent car, and we forget there's a whole war going on right under your nose. And then they kill one of our brothers and sisters, and we have to handle it. We have to react. It takes action. And I don't mean just protesting. It takes action. Nothing's wrong with protesting, but it takes action. So we have to imply that as well. That's the end of what I have. Does anybody have anything?
Question question comment. First, let me start off by saying happy birthday to
whom?
Hood Canooten.
Whose birthday?
Today is Hood Canooten's birthday, so he was born on February 17th, 1942, so definitely want to shout him out. And I want to preface by saying, I actually was a member of the New Black Panther Party branch in Nashville many, many moons ago. So my question is prefaced on that, being that y'all are part of the lineage of the originals, what is y'all relationship with the New Black Panther Party and the other branches and other groups within the, I guess, Black Power movement, if you will?
Yeah, there's a lot going on within the movement. So we kind of, we're all cordial. We just kind of do our thing. We work if need be. The ideology sometimes can be different. Okay, and what I don't typically want is for the ideology to be confused. We all tend to look alike, so But if anything kicks off to the point where that unity is needed, we're always there. You know what I'm saying? We're always there. I don't think all the groups in the movement can continuously work together. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they fall out, sometimes they don't. But it's a thing where I believe that if things kick off in a horrible way, I believe that we all have each other's backs as Black folks, and we're going to do what we need to do to survive and make things happen as we always have. If that answers your question.
No, facts, because I asked because I've had the opportunity to see and meet with folks. As a matter of fact, Chairman Steele had actually came to TSU when I was in school out there, so I had the opportunity to see him speak. But I asked that because I know that there's definitely been, I don't want to use the word confusion, but like you said, differences of opinion and ideology across the board, even with Fred Hampton Jr., who's still around. There's still some differences of ideology, right? But that's why I asked, just kind of have an idea, and I'm glad you broke down that history of the lineage, because that was something I was kind of curious about for the longest, using the term original Black Panther Party. And I know in our area alone, if I'm not mistaken, I know there's 7 City Panthers, and there's like 3 or 4 other groups that I'm aware of. So
Yeah, the Fred Hampton Blood Club, New Black Panther Party, Huey P. Newton Gun Club. There's a whole bunch of different ones. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, we should finish that.
So we kind of pressed for time right now.
That's all.
Well, hey, if anybody needs to talk, I'm here.
Yeah,
absolutely. All power to the people.
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 Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Anyone interested